First, I'd like to say thank you for all the support I've received on this channel so far. You guys are great. And if you are new here, welcome. You know, we are a true crime channel. We talk about crimes from everywhere, local, international, everywhere. And and if you are a returning person, welcome back. Thank you for the support. Not subscribed if you're new or if you are returning, please do so, because I get 70% of you people or everyone who wants are not subscribers. So can we change that? Because that would be nice. I'd like to get that changed. So go ahead and subscribe. It doesn't cost anything. It's free. And comment, like, share, all that good stuff. So let's get into it. So Emmanuel Haro. Those of you, if you've been under a rock or you've been out of the country or whatever, is the case of the 7-month-old baby that was allegedly kidnapped from a Big Five parking lot in Yucaipa, California. That's in San Bernardino County, I believe. Rebecca Haro, the mother, claimed that someone walked up behind her, said hola, and beat her and hit her in the back of the head, knocking her unconscious. That when she came to, the baby was gone, and she had looked underneath the car and around and could not find him. And then she ran into the Big Five store saying, have you seen a baby? Help. He's been kidnapped. And this is where the story begins. Now, in the first 24 hours, it appears that the sheriff's department was already kind of leery about what she was saying because she was making comments. And then you had a sibling of her husband, her sister-in-law, put a timeline post on Facebook or on social media, which has since been taken down, which contradicted what she said. Rebecca said to the police. So that's one little thing that came up. But they have made it clear that they don't believe her. They've questioned her, the family, both the parents were lawyered up immediately. And then as time has gone on, more and more things have come out about the parents, especially the father, where he's been convicted of willful child abuse. Back in 2018, he was accused of beating his, at the time, 10-week-old daughter darn near to death. The aftermath of that beating has left that child blind, unable to speak, having to breathe through a tube, and unable to walk, and needing 24/7 care for the rest of her life. She is 7 years old now. Now, for that crime, all he received was 6 months work release, where he had to, thank you. He had to basically go to work and then come back and then sleep in the jail. That is what he was on. And then he was on a 4-year suspended probation, or 4 years probation, which I thought was way too light. And how on earth that even works like that, I have no idea. So my thing is, his ass never should have gotten out of jail, but that's just my opinion. But that daughter and her older brother, who also suffers from fetal alcohol syndrome, were adopted by a relative of the father. So they're in safe hands with being raised, with love and care. So now let's fast forward. Jake Haro divorces his wife at the time, marries Rebecca Haro, has a 2-year-old daughter, then has Emmanuel. And Emmanuel is 7 months old. Now, based on the photographs we've seen of Emmanuel, there was something going on with that child. Now, he didn't look like he suffered from fetal alcohol syndrome, but possible shaken baby, something. He just did not look healthy. So when the story came out that the child had been allegedly kidnapped and the parents were talking to the media, making a plea for the return of their child, that was by far, in my opinion, the biggest red flag ever. That was the biggest red flag, because they were fake crying and breathing heavy and trying to look emotional, but there was nothing there. There was no real emotionality there. It was all fake. And then the father kept speaking about the baby in the past tense, like he was a good baby. He liked to play with toys, or he was playing with toys. He was crawling. He was doing these things, was, which you do not do if you believe your child is alive out there somewhere. So that's the other red flag. And then, like I said, more time came out. We find out about the willful child abuse charge, and we find out the details of that charge. And now here we are. So let's catch up. So the parents, lawyered up immediately after, when the cops are really pressing them. They immediately lawyered up. Lawyer came out and tried to make an excuse of explaining the original charge, and that yes, he did do that, but he didn't, do this. They're two different things, which whatever. Um, let's see. They impounded Jake Haro, the father's car, for processing. They have done a search warrant on the house, and in the baby's room, they found blood on the carpet and no pictures of the baby, no clothing of the baby, nothing that belonged to the baby. Everything has been removed and thrown out. Why would you do that? Then you have the house trailer next door to them catching fire and burning to the ground, which is very suspicious. They live out in a desert area, so if they put him, they buried him somewhere, it'd be very hard to find him. So there's that. But yesterday, both parents were arrested and charged with murder with malice. And I've never heard murder with malice. I've heard attempted murder, I've heard murder first degree, these kind of things. Never heard murder with malice. So I looked it up. And according to California law, murder with malice is where you either murder somebody with intent, or whatever you're doing to this person, you're beating them, you're doing whatever. If you willingly know that what you're doing could result in death, there you go, there's your malice. So that is what they're being charged with. Now, first degree murder with malice is basically where the intent comes into play. That is 30 years to life. Second degree, which is where you're doing things and it could end that way, but it's not your true intention of killing them, 15 years to life. So those are the two sentences right there. Now, both of them do not have bond. They've been denied bond, and they are due back in court on Tuesday. So we'll find out more at that point. But again, hello, everybody that's joined in. But I just don't understand how he got away with 6 months work release and 4 years, suspended sentence. I don't understand. None of that makes any sense to me. So between the fact that there was blood in the house, every belonging that was, belonged to the baby is now gone, and the fact that, everything's gone with the baby. Baby can't be found. The police have made it clear that they are no longer looking for a child that is alive. They're clearly looking for a corpse. They've made that clear. They're looking for remains, which is heartbreaking. So they have got enough evidence to believe the child is dead. Now, Rebecca, let's ask a question. I'm asking myself. Rebecca, how do they prosecute people without a body? It does happen. It does happen. You can prosecute and convict someone of murder without a body. It can happen. More recently, there in California, I think it was Southern California at that, Trezell and Jacqueline West were convicted, and I want to say 2018, I think, of the murder of Orson and Orrin West, their sons, who they adopted as infants, fostered to adopt. Those bodies have never been recovered, but they got 15 years to life, both of them, for those kids. More recent, or actually even older, there's the case of Carrie Culberson. Vincent Doan was her ex-boyfriend. She was last seen in his company. She had a restraining order against him. There's been fraught with violence. She disappeared. And it took a little while, but they were able to convict him and give him life in prison for her death and disappearance, even though they've never found her body. Never. So the fact that they can't find a body is not too problematic, because you can get a conviction, especially with all the circumstantial evidence that's coming up here. His past record, the fact they got rid of everything that belonged to the child, the fact that there was blood in the house, the fact that family hasn't seen that baby in over a month. She claimed she got the black eye because she was attacked at the Big Five, but you go back, she was at a funeral for her nephew back on August 5th, and there's video of her there with the black eye, but she's got makeup trying to cover it. So that black eye has been there for a minute. She did not get that from the attack. Then there was, the fact that, she went in there, or her husband and her brother went in there. the day before the baby went missing, claimed to be missing, and asked about cameras at the Big Five, which was kind of suspicious. But again, there was a store across the street that got camera footage of the lot, and they saw the car coming in, and they saw her get out, and they saw her rolling on the ground, and they saw her get up and go into the store. Not at any point did they see the baby. No baby. So I don't know what the hell they were trying to pull. I don't know if it was a domestic situation and little Manuel got, she was holding him and something happened and he got killed accidentally. But obviously, Jake Haro has some anger issues, obviously. He already darn near killed one infant. And per his record, he's big on resisting arrest, carrying a firearm, doing drugs, drinking, all that. And his coworkers from Walmart, where he was working at one point, made it clear when this whole thing started, they said, "Oh, you need to look into him." So people don't like him as it is. So I can only imagine what has really happened to this kid. So they go to court, like I said, Tuesday. They're scheduled to go in, I guess, and give a plea and whatnot. I don't expect them to get bail. I think they're going to keep them in the jail. And their 2-year-old daughter is also in protective custody. So there's that. But it's a sad case. The more that comes out about this case, the more upset I get because you have people out there who are not able to have children that would do anything to have a child. Then you've got pieces of garbage like Rebecca and Jake Haro who just have kids willy-nilly and then just dispose of them like it's garbage. Where's the justice? And I am calling to action everybody in the state of California. Legislate your lawmakers. Give tougher punishments for child abuse. Seriously, because that man never should have left that jail after what he did to that infant. There's no way in hell that should have happened. And hello, more people joining. There's no way on earth that should have happened. That child should be alive. He should be happy, and he should be with people who love him. And now he's most likely decaying somewhere out in the desert. So that's my rant for tonight on Emmanuel Haro. And like I said, the parents are due back in court on Tuesday. I'm gonna hop off here, but as I always say, be weird, be safe, and you all have a wonderful day. Bye.